everyone. Welcome back to English Champion. On this episode, I've got a medley of stories for you. I thought I'd mix and match and add something different this week. It has been now 5 years since do you call it an anniversary? I don't even know what you call it when something is stupid and terrible, but you constantly remember it each year at this time. We've had 5 years since the lockdowns of the COVID nightmare. And so I thought I'd share a couple of my most vivid memories of that, of when that occurred in the months that followed. And if you would share with me your craziest stories you remember from that time period, because it was just such stupidity that I can't believe we did it. I think we already do, but I think we're gonna look back, in the decades to come and go, hey, remember when everyone lost their minds and acted like total idiots for at least a year? Yeah, how stupid was everyone? That's what's going to happen if it hasn't happened already. Because we knew very early on, I mean, I'm not even in the science field, and yet anyone with common sense could look around and go, yeah, I don't think this is as serious as people are thinking here and talking about, and we certainly don't need to be locked in our houses like some police state. It was very evident, after about a week, we could all go, yeah, I don't think this is that big a deal. And so in our house, my wife and I didn't do anything different. We lived our lives completely normally. We went out every day. We had dinners at friends' houses, invited people over, had family parties, and got together with people in our neighborhood or whatever we did. We didn't change anything aside from everything and things being closed down. We still went out. We still traveled. We treated it like nothing was going on, and it was great. And so I felt bad for all the people that panicked and stayed in their houses, and it was just weird. Like, we could tell this isn't a big deal. And so to this day, I don't know if I've ever gotten COVID. I've never really been sick. Neither of us have. And so for something that was so widespread and so dangerous, like, yeah, I was around people the whole time. I was teaching, and I was around extended family and friends, and I was around people all the time. I didn't change my lifestyle at all. And yet I never got anything. And if I did, I never knew about it. We never understood why people got COVID tested. Like, why would you even take a test? I don't understand. Like, if you got the flu, just stay at home like you have the flu. That's fine. People get sick, so just treat it like the flu. Why do you need to get COVID tested? So, being a professor, I was at a school where everyone's getting tested all the time. It's like, why don't you just, you know, rest and take the day off? Why do you need to automatically, oh, I have a sniffle, I better get COVID tested? We couldn't understand it. It was so weird. And so to this day, I've never taken a COVID test. I don't even know what you do. I don't know why you'd ever take one. It seems so stupid to me. And, it just wasn't something for us to worry about. Once we knew very early on that, oh, wait, kids aren't getting this and healthy people aren't really being affected by this, like, okay, this isn't a big deal. My wife, who's a very funny person, she always says, yeah, until I see people bleeding out of their eyes, I'm not going to worry about it. This isn't really a thing. And that's what happened. If it's not affecting children and people aren't bleeding from their eyes, I'm going to live my life like normal. And so that's what we did. And everything was fine for us. So that was, that's how we treated COVID. But obviously the rest of the world didn't do that. And, as a college professor, when this was affecting the schools, obviously, like every school, when it happened in March, everything shut down. And so we just did stuff online, which was a complete waste of time and no learning got done. And then we started back up in the fall and we had all the rules. And I know a lot of schools didn't. We did. We started back up together in the fall and had all these crazy rules and with the distancing and the masks and all that stuff. And it was a nightmare because if you've never done it, try and lecture. So, you're in a big room and you're having to give a presentation where you're speaking for an hour straight, like you do at universities, with your face covered. I mean, it's amazing how fast you get out of breath when you're trying to enunciate and project to the back of the room in an auditorium, and you're having trouble getting air. I mean, it was horrible for those of us as teachers to have to wear masks, and then you can't see kids' faces, and we've heard the stories about how bad it was at the lower levels with children and faces and hearing and speech. But even those of us at the college level, it was just really dumb, and there was really no point to it. Aside from the rules, a lot of schools got federal funding to adjust their classrooms or their school environments for making the kind of the technological transition. And so there were billions and billions of dollars spent, and my university did as well. And so when we came back, we had We had all these new televisions in the room so that we could do, you know, like Zoom classes for kids who were in their dorm who tested positive for COVID, even though they weren't sick. Um, and so we had like microphones and we had cameras in the rooms and all this stuff to help facilitate the process for kids who weren't there or who were sick. And immediately uh, after I don't know a couple months of that, basically by the end of the semester, we weren't using any of it. We didn't turn on the Zoom cameras. We didn't use the microphones. We didn't turn on the televisions and have students, that we could see on the screen wherever, doing distance learning. We didn't do any of it. No one cared. So just know that at many universities around the country, schools applied and got millions and millions of dollars individually and then billions across the whole country to implement technology in their classrooms that they don't actually even use. So there's many schools with all this stuff sitting in classrooms today that no one actually even uses. So there's your tax dollars at work that we panicked and spent billions of dollars on things that schools didn't need, and they didn't need it so much that they stopped using it fairly quickly. So there's your tax dollars at work in education. The funniest thing, and I'll tell a couple of personal things. The funniest thing I remember at university during that time was when we came back to school was again just like the common sense of all this. You have kids on campus, and you're like, wait a second, you're putting all these rules in place in the classroom, but they live in the dorm together. Like they're around each other all day, every single day. They're in restrooms together. They're in their dorm room together, sleeping next to each other. They're eating lunch together. They're playing their sports together. Like they're together all the time, unmasked, doing whatever activities they're doing. And yet, no, no, no. When you're walking across campus and then when you're sitting in a classroom, make sure you have your mask on, make sure we're 6 feet apart and all this stuff. It's like, it was so stupid. And then, of course, we'd still get in group work. And so you might have your mask on, but the 6 foot thing, we wouldn't follow that. So all these rules were just so dumb. Again, anyone with common sense were like, yeah, why are we doing this? This is stupid. But our leaders were, no, we got to follow the guidelines because we get money from the government. And so we got to follow their rules. Like, yeah, that's why you don't take money from the government, because they make you do stupid things. But the worst of it was one day I was walking across this like courtyard area towards my classroom, and I was approaching my room and I saw this guy and this girl holding hands, no masks or anything, and they were just standing there talking before class, and they had like a quick 5 second makeout session, full on long kiss, and stopped, put their masks on, and walked into their classroom. It's like, yeah, this is what's going on. You're putting in rules in the classroom so that kids stay distanced, and yet two of your students who are in your class were just making out with each other 5 seconds ago. And yet, oh, we got to follow the rules. So this is how stupid everything got. And I'm sure, if you're a teacher, please tell me some of the stories you remember from the shutdowns or when we immediately came back the following fall, or if it took you a while and you didn't come back till the spring or even the next year. But please share your stories of how the insanity of COVID on your campus or at your school. I'd love to hear how ridiculous it got for you. Aside from school, the craziest things that I can remember from the aftermath of that, I'll give you three quick examples. When you look back, you're like, how stupid are people and what were they doing to our relationships and just how we operate as a culture? Just insane. One, I remember my wife and I went on vacation that summer, and we had a place near the beach, and we'd gone on our walk, and we're coming back home to our rental place after our walk on the beach that evening, and there was this pathway in between some of the houses towards the neighborhood where we were staying. And so on one side of the path was like this people's backyard, and on the other side of the path was this huge hedge, like this giant bush, the length of this sidewalk. And the sidewalk is probably, normal 6 feet wide or whatever, just a normal walkway. And so we're walking back, and she and I are of course like side by side, and we see this lady walking towards us on the path. She's heading down towards the beach probably too, and so we're about to pass each other, and of course like none of us are wearing masks because we're outside and we're not insane. So we're just walking, and this lady, as she approaches us, she puts her hands completely over her eyes, nose, and mouth. Her whole face she covers. And not just that, she turns into the bush, like that Homer Simpson meme where he like, the bush closes around him. It was the opposite because she leaned into the bush with her face. And so she was like this and then leaned in and put her face in the bush as we walked by because she thought two people walking were going to breathe on her or something. Like, again, we're outside. You're just going to walk right past us. If you want to hold your breath, you want to turn away, that's fine. You look like a weirdo, but whatever. No, this lady went so far as to cover her face and shove her entire head into a bush with her back to us as we walked past. So, in normal world where you're friendly and someone approaches you on a sidewalk that you're walking by, you're like, hey, good evening or something like that. No, it wasn't. The pleasantries were gone. And it was so bad that this lady had to stick her face in a bush as we walked by. And so we kind of watched her as we kept walking. And she gave it a few seconds. It wasn't like, oh, right when we stepped past her, she got out and walked. She stayed in there a while to make sure we had kept our distance from her. So people sticking their heads in hedges to avoid even breathing the same outdoor air. I will never forget that lady. Absolutely hilarious. On that same trip, you may have heard the stories on the news or wherever, but we were in California, and so I was on the beach one day when police officers showed up and kicked people off the beach. They drove their truck down on the beach, and they're out in their dark uniforms and sunglasses and they like masks all the way up to here, so they're just fully in black, a little weird looking. And I actually have a photo of it. So here's the cop telling us to get off the beach. Actually, he didn't tell us we had to leave, and this is the weirdest part. So what he did was you either need to leave or you're allowed to walk on the beach. You're not allowed to sit. And as you can see in the photo, the people in the background, that's as close as we were at least 50 feet away from anybody else on our blanket. And all we're doing is sitting there, reading, taking a nap, whatever we were doing, sitting there quietly, just my family, no one else around, but for, many, many yards away. So we're not crowded. We're not doing anything. And he says, you either need to leave or you need to, this is for walking only. Like you're still allowed to get exercise. So the twist of this, and this is why I was so stupid, was what did everyone do? Well, no one wanted to leave. It was a beautiful day, as you can see in the photo. So everyone then went down towards the water's edge. And so now everyone's walking on the beach. So what we were was all spread out. There were a couple people walking on the beach. There were bunches of people just sitting all over their place, separated on their own blankets with their own families. So what this guy did, this cop, as a way of following the rules, was you're not allowed to sit with your own family by yourselves outdoors. Okay, well, you can either go home or you can walk on the beach. And now we're all walking in this crowd up and down the 2-mile stretch of beach where now we're closer to each other than we ever were before. So the rules they put in place were actually achieving the opposite effect of what they thought. They thought, well, the walking and that'll keep people separate. No, we were more separated. Your rule brought us closer together, and now we're all passing each other. There's groups walking together. The beach now, the waterfront was super crowded. When we were all just sitting on our blankets, it was completely spread apart. No danger of anything, not that there was before. And so I'll never forget that. That's why I kept that picture to this day. This is what the world became in places like California, where they sent cops to kick people off the beach when the thing that was best for people was fresh air and sunshine and exercise. That's what everyone was out doing, and you wanted to kick us out of there. It was insane. And your recommendation ended up being worse than what we were already doing. The other stupid thing about it was this wasn't every day. Because we were down on the beach every single day, maybe not always sitting out, but my wife and I go on a walk every single day. And for a month we were there. And it was only once in a while. So it was like these random days, a weekend or whatever. I'm sure it was because they thought, well, it's going to be crowded because it's a weekend. And so we need to go keep people off. But there were other days where it was just as crowded. That day actually wasn't any different than any other day. And so there was just, like many of you I'm sure remember, there's just this randomness to it. It was like, well, we're going to enforce the rules on this day, but not on this day. It's like, well, we were down there every day and you only came to kick us out that day. So what was the difference? because someone told you, oh, it's a weekend, we better go check on them. It didn't make any sense. So the randomness, you could, again, this was July into the 1st of August. A good 4 to 5 months after all of the shutdown stuff. And that means we were 4 to 5 months into knowing, yeah, all this stuff doesn't work. All these rules you're putting in place, all these regulations, all this enforcement, this is really stupid. None of this matters. We already know by now the masks don't work. We already know the 6 feet thing doesn't matter. We already know healthy young people like us aren't getting sick. There's no danger to anybody. So why are you? And if people are sick or they're old or whatever, yeah, they can isolate themselves. Why are you harming the rest of us? We're not doing anything wrong. So that day, I'll never forget it, and that's why I kept that picture, because that was a real distillation of everything wrong with the kind of the totalitarian state to the complete illogic of what rules they were trying to enforce. And it's just a great example of, these cops who, I respect police officers, but like, you are knowingly doing something that, again, you knew was stupid. You were enforcing rules. Why? Because someone told you to. Like, but if it's a dumb rule, you shouldn't enforce it. I mean, that's what a mature, responsible, independent thinker needs to do. Is, yeah, there's times to follow the rules and there's times to not follow stupid rules. And so, there have been times in history where we had the excuse of, well, I'm just following what my leaders told me. It's like, yeah, that's not where you want to be. You don't want to be those people. And that's what happened in the state of California, and elsewhere, I'm sure, as well. And I saw it live, and so I have that photo of that guy coming to my blanket with my family and telling us, you either need to leave or you can walk on the beach. And I'll never forget that. The third instance didn't happen on vacation. It happened right here in my hometown. And I was going to the library one day, and the libraries were open for... One of my local libraries here in Scottsdale has a drive-through, which is really convenient. We love it. And so the indoor was closed because they wouldn't let people inside, but you could still pick up books at the drive-through window. And so I had placed my reservation online and had a book on the hold shelf. And so I drove through the drive-through to pick it up. And at this library, the window is like vertical in the open space in the wall, and then there's an opening at the bottom. It's like, I don't know, 4 to 6 inches of an opening. And so, because they just slide the books underneath it and you can go on your way, and you just roll down your window and grab it and go. So it's very convenient and great, and I use it all the time, even without the COVID stuff. But so the rules online were like, well, when you pick up your book, you need to have your mask on in your car. And I was like, well, I'm not doing that. I'm in my own car. There's outdoor air because I have my window rolled down. And the person working at the library is wearing a mask, and they're behind glass. So the glass is covering them completely because the shelf to slide the book under is, down by their waist or their below their chest. So like there's no air getting through. And so I was like, well, I'm not doing that. And so I just went up to the drive-through and had my window down. I was like, here's my ID card and my name. Can you grab my books for me? And the guy was like, you really are supposed to have, I can't give it to you unless you have your mask on. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that. I was like, I'm in my own car. You're protected. So like, just give me my book, please. And we kind of went back and forth, and he got my book and he's holding it. And he's like, well, I'm really not supposed to do this. I was like, you have my book in your hand. Just hand me my book, please. And so we went back and forth about how this is stupid. I'm not following that rule. And there's no danger to anybody because you're literally separated by glass and you're wearing a mask. So there's no, I'm not breathing on you. There's nothing happening here. And so that was crazy enough. But then the next sentence he said was even crazier. He goes, well, I'll do it for you this time. I'll get your book for you. But next time, all you need to do is just say that you have a medical condition and you have an exemption from wearing the mask, like you have asthma or something like that, and wearing a mask would be harmful to your breathing or something. So just next time you come, you don't want to wear it, just give us, tell us that reason, and then we'll get your book for you. And I was like, oh, so you want people to lie to each other. By just offering that reason, because I'm not sick, I don't have any breathing problem. You already know that I just don't want to follow your stupid rule. You want people to pretend they have a medical condition and lie to each other. So that's the culture we created during COVID. Was we all know these rules are stupid. This is all just performance. We don't actually believe in any of this stuff because After all, he got my book for me anyway, so he didn't really care about the rules that much. And he offered the way to get around this is just to lie to me. And I thought, wow, how far, where have we gone wrong in our culture where we not only have stupid rules, but we're all now agreeing that, well, let's just start lying to each other because that'll at least help everyone, get along and do the tasks we need to get done. So those are the three key memories I remember personally from COVID, aside from even the classroom, that I will never forget. A lady sticking her face into a hedge, cops making a situation worse on a beach, and a guy saying, "Oh, just lie to us, and then we'll let you do what you need to do." For as long as I live, I'll never forget those three things. So please share your crazy COVID stories now that we're 5 years past the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, because it was a wild time, and I'm sure you'll never forget it either. Second little story of the day. I was at the. I talk on this site a lot about technology because I can't stand most of the new developments, and especially how it's affecting young people, how it's affecting education. Much of technology is just frivolous and stupid. And let me give you a quick example of one that I just encountered the other day. So I was going to one of the other libraries here in town. Actually, I had to return some books, and they have a very convenient drop area to return your books, and they have recently implemented an electronic system where when you go to drop your book in the slot, you just wait for a second and it scans it so that it goes off your record into the system. It signifies to the library that it's been rechecked in, and so then all the people have to do is just go put it back on the shelf. I used to work many years ago when I was younger at the public library, and so before all this technology came in, and so when the books came in from the drop box, I had to go, or I was one of the people that you had to go and scan it and make sure it was all proper and check for damage, and then organize it so it'd be delivered back to the shelf so someone else could get it. So it was a tedious process, not hard, but tedious, and you had to have someone do it by hand. And so this little machine now does it for you. You just slide it in, it scans it, and it's ready to go back on the shelf for whoever to deliver it. That is, if it actually works. So I was there before the library had opened. I was there early in the morning, and so I just pull up to the curb and I run over there and I attempt to slide it into the slot where the scanner is, and it's not. It's the little flap isn't opening and the scanner's not working. So it's like trying it. Nope, nothing. So here's this thing that was supposed to make everything easier, and all I'm doing is I'm just trying to drop this book off. Like, let me return it to you, and couldn't do it. You know what would have allowed me to return the book? Just a hole in the side of the wall like they used to have. So you making the technology actually made this experience of dropping off a book worse. Because now, not only is it not scanned, not only did it make your job easier to have the book returned and put back on the shelf, I can't even literally return the book now. Because, again, the library wasn't open yet, so I can't just walk in and give it to somebody. I'm stuck holding the book until they fix this stupid machine. So I had to leave. I came back later when it was open because it was like, well, if it's still broken, then I can just walk inside. And later on that day, they had fixed it, so it was fine. But this is the assumption that a lot of young people have, is that, well, any technology is good because it makes our lives simpler. And yes, that can be true if it actually works. But what about when it doesn't? Because after all, things break. So sometimes the easiest thing and the most efficient and the most useful is actually something that doesn't require any technology. It would have been better for everyone involved. Yes, someone would have had to take it and scan it and make sure it was okay and then, go through that whole process. But at least the customer would have been able to accomplish the task that you want them to do. So your technology has, in that situation, made my experience of the library worse. It would have been better off if you just had the old slot where I just slid it in there and went back to my car. Problem solved. So it's just funny how we think in life that, as things get more advanced, then our lives are going to become simpler and they're going to become more efficient and we can do stuff faster and easier. It's like, not necessarily. You made my life more difficult because I had to leave, go do other things for a couple hours and come back and check it again. So you wasted part of my day because of your technology. So it's not always as beneficial as you think. So we need to, especially for young people, as those of us as teachers, we need to make sure we're constantly reminding students about, if they're going to invent something, if they're going to innovate and be creators of things that are technological, that they're they're doing things that are actually truly useful. Like, do I need these superfluous, frivolous things? Like, does that actually make our lives that much better? And if it does, we need to make sure, yeah, but what happens if it breaks? Then what? Am I completely like incapable of accomplishing anything? Because that doesn't make my life better. So we need to have like a fail safe always built in. Like, what's the backup to this? Because your technology isn't always going to work. And we need to have maybe the most basic alternatives still available to us. So there's technology for you at the public library. Lastly, I don't usually talk about this because I don't care about it very much. But my birthday was the other day, and the only reason I mention that is because that date is a very famous date in history and in literature. And so I was just tooling around online the other day and saw a post from the University of Austin in Texas that was celebrating March 15th and doing it in a very unique way. So take a look at what they were doing at the University of Austin.
At University of Austin, UATX, and I'm dressed up like this because it is our celebration of the Ides of March. So the Ides of March is the day when Julius Caesar was assassinated. It marked the downfall of the Roman Republic and the ushering in of the Roman Empire, a huge turning point in the fate of Western civilization. Here at UATX, we really value the lessons from antiquity, and it's really fun to be able to dress up in something totally foreign to you. Not wearing pants is definitely a first for me. The food is something that was so well executed. I'm somebody who's very interested in the culinary arts, and I've researched quite a bit about Roman culinary history, and they knocked it out of the park. They were trying to be very faithful to what the Romans actually ate. It was probably the best meal I've had all year, and I've been to some pretty good restaurants around Austin, so.
So that school is doing some really great things, helping remind students about our culture, helping to maintain the traditions and the historical knowledge that we need to make sure we're keeping with us so that we can keep learning from it. So that school is doing some great stuff, and they were doing a very fun activity to celebrate March 15th. So there's a variety of stories for you today. Thanks for watching. In the coming days, I'm going to have some interesting stuff for you, some literary things as well as some broad education stuff. So please keep checking back. I've got a little book group situation, a little book reading and analysis coming up for people. So I hope you can participate in that. I'll have more info on that coming out soon. So keep checking back right here on English Champion. Thanks for watching.